notRadio.net. This is Not Radio. It's a podcast.
This is not radio.
All right, this is our first official broadcast on Facebook. You could hear some of the behind-the-scenes chatter here. We got all confused, but I'll explain that as the show goes on. This is a half-hour show. Stay with us. If you're watching the replay, then stay tuned because we're about to have some information and some entertainment just to get your morning started. This will be a weekly show, and we hope you enjoy. Stay with us. Hey, so... Right. Still getting used to this. This is the little headline section here. I had 3 stories for you, but I didn't condense them down. One is about, and Michael and I will talk about this a little bit, but one is about internet jobs and how there's a ton of them. And they're actually, the internet is supporting the creative industry, like really, really meaningfully. That's a weird statement. It's early. What else do we got here? That somebody at BuzzFeed cracked Facebook's new algorithm. So if you've been seeing the same thing showing up again and again on top of your feed, well, that's pretty interesting. We'll get into that a little bit too. As well as we've got a highlight from a Recode event with the creator of Patreon. So that'll be interesting.
Clever guy.
There you go. So stay with us as we gear this show towards the creative entrepreneurial types and try and get you some information that makes your day better. Hey, good morning, Michael.
Hey, good morning, Travis.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Well.
You meditate this morning?
I did for an hour. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you think there's like long distance meditation? Like, do people like compete against each other?
I don't know about competition, but there's a great app I use called Insight Timer, and there's a group on there, 365 days of meditation.
Okay.
So it's people meditating together every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'd like to organize a competition.
How would you compete meditating?
Well, you just sit in a room and it'd be like a dance-off. You just meditate, and the last person to get up wins. Right?
What do you win?
Enlightenment. That's it. Get out.
Tranquility.
Yeah.
Insight.
Mm-hmm. No, it's something I need to start doing. Oh, I don't know if I need to start doing anything, but I want to.
There you go. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. I think it's a phenomenal practice. Have you been introduced to meditation? There's so many different
Been introduced
styles.
to mindfulness when I went to college a wee little time ago, and there was an experimental course called the Science of Mindfulness.
The Science of Mindfulness.
Yeah, and the reason it was the college just gave it the green light to do like one I don't know, it was 2 semesters, and I was in the first semester. And the teacher was like brand new at it, but he was really passionate. And there was probably about 3 kids in the entire class of like 30 that actually were paying attention and like trying to absorb the information. Mm-hmm. That was one of them, and I'm really grateful for it. Although, that was just an introduction to it, but it's still just knowing about it and the clinical studies that have been put behind it nowadays, that you can actually see, okay, yeah, it does lower your stress. It does lower your, all these things that give you benefit.
What's one of the big lessons that you learned, or takeaways, or an aha that you had learning about it?
Mindfulness, I think, to me and to many people, is the cure to conquering behaviors that you don't approve of. So yeah. It's very easy when you're in the moment to make an appropriate decision. The problem I have is when I'm not in the moment, when my mind's either distracted thinking about the future or distracted thinking about the past, then I'm not in the moment and I make terrible decisions. I eat too much. I don't go to sleep. Whatever the decision, and there's tons of them, right? But
right.
I go back to my programming in my youth, and that's what my autopilot kicks in. So mindfulness is a technique that I can use for myself to, if by practicing it more often, I'll make more good decisions more often.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it, actually. That's really wonderful. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, the last course I took was a Vipassana course, and there was a girl who joined us from California, so this is in Merritt, BC, and she flew up here. And her motivation of attending the course was because she had read a couple of books from different people in Silicon Valley who recommended or said that they do meditation, they practice meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And there were two main types of meditation that they were practicing.
Was one of them TM?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other was Vipassana.
That's a big Hollywood one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Vipassana is free, TM you pay, so there's your difference.
Yeah, well, TM, it's funny because as far as I can figure, the only thing you pay for is for like someone to teach you a mantra or help you create one. That's like the big thing that, otherwise it's just meditation with a mantra.
Oh, okay. I wasn't 100% sure what David Lynch practices TM.
Yeah, so does Jerry Seinfeld. A lot of people. It's like an underground Scientology.
Except it's more mindfulness than.
Yeah, I don't want to get sued by anybody. So
doctrine based.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, the TM one is interesting, but as far as I know, that's what it is. It's 20 minutes twice a day with a mantra, and your mantra is not supposed to be anything that's remotely connected or related to any other idea that you have. So it can't be like pencil, 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 right? It has to be a sound or a phrase that is nonsensical. It doesn't mean anything to you.
Oh, okay.
And all it is it's about. Actually, I have like a video about some technology coming up later. I'll get into that a bit, but okay, I'll let you get on with your headlines. Actually.
What did I have for headlines? We were talking about, I think the most interesting one is this story about the creative industry on the internet.
Oh, yes.
So this took me right back to news writing and realizing that I'm not a professional news writer. So I don't want to just read somebody else's words, so I'm just going to skim and we'll discuss. Okay, so last week, this website called everyonecreates.org released a study about how the open internet and various platforms help create artwork of all kinds, and like movies, music, books, photographs, and there's people who are actually getting paid. So contrary to what different groups are saying that the internet harms creators, their study shows that it's actually enabling millions of people to make money as well. So they said 14.8 million people use platforms like Amazon Publishing, eBay, Etsy, Instagram, Shapeways, Tumblr, Twitch, WordPress, and YouTube to earn approximately, in 2016, collectively they earned about $5.9 billion.
$1 billion industry.
And they left off the table Kickstarter, Patreon, Indiegogo, Bandcamp, Wattpad, Apple, and Spotify.
Crazy. What do you think that replaced? Like for crowdfunding, it's easy because it's an easy analogy to say that they replaced record labels.
It's
or
tough.
Some of the functions that record labels have.
Right. That's right. And but they're saying it's hard to determine the average income for members in the internet community. So it's hard to maybe pinpoint exactly where that money is coming from. They really were focusing on independent creators and even small creators. Not like they left out Kim Kardashian, for example.
Yeah. But who was giving those people money before, right? Was it nobody?
That could be. And there's a lot of the advertising industry has shifted online. So those platforms being able to pay, it is a shift from money. So you might not have seen it, but Michael and we watched that video last Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The guy from the movie and film industry, he was talking about in the music industry and how that was collapsing. And that's pretty much the end of the road for the cable industry. So that money is shifting. So that's where it's coming from. So it's people that would have waited to get discovered. That's the big thing. I might have left that out of here.
Was he the gentleman making the analogy to television, the advent of television versus in the radio industry?
Right.
Was he the one that's making that analogy? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and describing the path of the music industry and where it's gone, right? From having the Empire Records, for example, or...
Yeah, well, just for everybody at home who's watching this and didn't see last week's episode, what you're saying is that live streaming and the media that comes through the new way that we consume media is akin to how television was introduced into the market, and some people in the radio industry didn't pay any attention, didn't give any respect to the new medium, and thus were quickly eclipsed. And we're finding the same thing here with Netflix eclipsing Blockbuster, with all these big television stations going nowadays switching to online media, starting up YouTube accounts, but they have pathetic numbers because they missed the train already.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So this article is talking about those who rely on the old gatekeeper system of waiting until you're discovered by a label, studio, or distributor, and hoping that company will do all the work to make you rich and famous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more difficult these days.
Yeah.
But for actual creators, then today it's an astounding, unprecedented period of opportunity.
Yeah.
So people who are actually out creating, a lot of this money from online is subsidizing their other income streams.
Well, I'm going to start a crowdfunding campaign in the next couple of weeks, so we'll be able to talk about that. I'll be experiencing it firsthand.
Cool.
Nervous.
Would you know what to expect?
No.
How have you started the planning months ago?
Yeah, I've planned it out for a while now.
Cool. That was something we worked on with Not TV over the summer was the crowdfunding campaign, and one of my mistakes was not communicating with people frequently enough, especially after the fact. So we didn't meet our goal, and all of the contributions helped like immensely. I can't even express how much people's contributions actually helped just to showing that this idea can gain some momentum, that there is interest, and just to help get through the summer.
Now, how much did you know about crowdfunding before you got into that? Was that like a...
I've been sort of... we started talking as a team, and by we, I mean my mom and my best friend. We started talking about it about 3 years earlier.
Okay.
And knew that this was going to be part of the path we set in motion. But the development of the project ended up not taking the same timeline. And I've got a lot to maybe learn, or I did learn in this past about, we didn't have the product finished to actually direct people to, and I wanted to make it more about the content at this point.
Yeah.
And then I thought, this would be people actually paying for the content. We'll create content on a regular basis. But we started the ball rolling on the crowdfunding campaign, and I was at Accelerate Okanagan, and our advisor there, she said, some companies will actually have a budget for crowdfunding. Like they'll spend 60 grand just to do their crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah.
And that's when it was a bit of a hit. Because I think like River, who's a filmmaker out of Calgary, he did one too. And I think he didn't quite anticipate how much work it was to... his advice was just once you start that crowdfunding campaign, you better be on the phone every day, all day, calling everybody you know, and then doing your best to let it push out. You got to get it to the next level. You got to get it where other people push it out to their networks.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to apparently from what I've read, you got to plan to be able to fill 30% of what you're asking for with your friends and family.
Right.
So you got to have that plan in place. You got to be pretty much sure that you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And then the other important piece is you have to make it hot and fast, right? So when I do mine, I'm only going to do it for like 20 days or so.
Right.
And it's just going to be, act now or don't act.
Right. And would you know what your goal is?
$5,000. So it's not that much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's not like asking for 100,000 or $1 million.
Yeah, it's not craziness, right? But it's still like, I don't know. That's for me, when I break it down in numbers, it's 500 people buying the album for $10
right.
At a pre-sale.
Yeah.
I don't have 500 people that are going to give me $10 for my album, right? But I might know 100 people who do it, and those 100 people might ask their friends to do it. And so if I frame it in the right way, which I've thought a lot about too, it'll be more easier for people to share and get on board with.
It's so interesting. As artists, there's a lot of artists out there. And does it feel at times that as an artist, you're competing with other artists then? Like, I got to get somebody to buy my album, and they're buying other people's albums. Like, once you do these crowdfunding campaigns, are we all up against each other? Or is there's a grand world out there. It's an abundance. I'm trying to keep that mindset.
That's what I mean too. I think it would be easy to get into that competition mindset, or what is it?
Scarcity.
Scarcity mindset. But I don't feel that way. I feel like there's plenty out there for everybody, and it's just a matter of how hard you work for it, your determination, your tenacity, and if you have those two, you're gonna succeed.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best of luck and keep.
Thank you.
Push hard and
I'll come back. I'll report.
Awesome.
I'll let you know what's up.
I look forward to it. We can talk about the progress on this
Absolutely.
program too. And this podcast is actually part of our intention for a long time, is a way of keeping the audience connected. I should show you where to turn my camera back on. Do you know it? It's this little dial here.
Okay.
So this camera only stays on for every 20 minutes. Now it seems to be off completely.
Okay.
Well, there it is. Okay. It's a delay on the broadcast.
I see your shoulder in mine.
So this podcast is a way of continually connecting with people, and something that I wanted to share was this conference with the Patreon founder.
This guy's interesting.
Because he had a lot of good things to say. I'm just going to be connecting with people. PC1. Now I can hear my own voice because I didn't mute all of these. There we go. Okay, awesome. Michael and I have been working out the bugs of this show for the past week, maybe even like 2 weeks, it feels like, and setting the room up. And last week was good, though. It was nearly a solid week of tests.
Yeah.
We did good.
I know. I'm happy. So if you guys are out there and you're watching, please let us know any constructive feedback. If the camera angles suck, or if it's too blurry for you, if the sound's not as good as you think it could be, maybe you can give us some helpful tips on how to right the ship a little bit better.
Yeah, that would actually be super helpful. We're sort of trying to perfect our version or our craft of this live streaming.
Yeah, and we're kind of uncertain of what exact format it'll take. So we're going to do a little experimenting, playing around. We just want to give you guys the interesting content that we're absorbing on a daily basis. We want to kind of distill it down to the most important parts and then send it to you with the links, and you guys can do with it what you will.
There you go. So this, the founder of Patreon, Jack Conti, I think is
that sounds like a dirty word, Travis.
No, I'm trying to say his name right.
Say that
this is the worst. If you're a host or emceeing anything, you should really find people's names out first. Yeah. Pronounce them right. It's really important.
Give that last name another go for me.
You know what? Maybe we'll just let the guy at the conference say it. Let's see if that works.
Susie, you make a living on Patreon.
Here.
Jack, you're CEO of Patreon.
Yeah. He's not even going to say it. Let's call him Jack. Oh, man. All right. I tried. So in this clip, there's two people on stage. Jack, the CEO of Patreon.
Yeah.
I'm just going to omit his last name, too. And this Susie girl who is a creator, and she's on MTV and uses Patreon as a sort of subsidy or an extra, all this extra content that she gets to create for her audience and her creators. And there's a couple of clips here, but we'll start with this first one, just where he's talking a little bit about traditional paywalls. Are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Awesome. See if I can find the button. There it is.
Folks who are using Patreon as a traditional paywall, but that's not most creators. Most creators, their work is available for free on SoundCloud or YouTube or wherever it is that they're distributing the work. And then they use Patreon as a place for secondary content and member benefits, and whether that's early access or recognition for patrons or windowed content or something like that. A lot of creators are using it for those sorts of things.
There you go. That's the first clip I wanted to share with you. Right? The idea that Patreon, they're using it like SoundCloud and YouTube.
They're not exactly using it for a paywall, but just as a avenue for people who want to support them.
That's right. These are just really quick clips too, just so you know.
Absolutely.
All right. Clip number 2.
Characterizes people are happy to, people want to pay for it. They're like, they can't wait to pay for it. I've been a creator for the last 10 years on YouTube, and one of the most popular comments that always had the most thumbs up votes on YouTube was, "I'm throwing money at the screen, but nothing is happening." Like, fans really want to support the stuff that they love. That's actually just, I think there's this age-old thing psychologically about humans where they want to feel like a member of the community. They want to support the arts. They want to, that was a privilege that's been reserved for very few people over the ages. And now.
Yeah, there you go.
That's true. And it couldn't happen at a better time, because I feel that what do you want to call it? The purveyor of the arts traditionally were wealthy people of like outstanding wealth. And sure, they still play a huge role with philanthropy and supporting the arts. But I think that that trend is, I don't know, getting less popular.
There it is. That trend of it being exclusive?
Well, just
where only so many people can actually contribute to the arts?
Yeah, I think that as more conservative tendencies roll into our politics, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it has more to do with the economy, but I feel, and I think a lot of people feel, that there's been like a choke-off of funds going to the arts, and that the government isn't really allocating that kind of money properly. There isn't really a lot of institutions built up for people who have outstanding wealth to then funnel it to people in the arts.
Yeah, because you go to, like, oh, sorry guys, you go to a symphony or something and you see the donor wall, and it was even theaters like Theatre Calgary and the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra. It takes all of the philanthropists in the city to support that form of the arts. So with this, we started to show off talking about online arts. So, and you're running this crowdfunding, it makes me wonder, is part of what you're saying or getting at online, or just specifically in our communities? Because there could be that government funding, but also the philanthropy, and it sounds like you're talking about the channels aren't quite there the way they used to be, or the people aren't accessing those channels the way they used to be.
It's hard for me to say what happened or what happened a long time ago. I just feel like right now that something like Patreon is so successful because it's not only needed, but like this guy's saying, it's a privilege. You know, when I find someone that really connects to me, like gives me a piece of art that either opens me up or touches me, like that sounded dirty a little bit too. But anyway, I think that, like, I want to give to artists who give me that experience. I want to help them. I want to support them. And when you're buying a CD, the problem with buying a CD is everybody knows that money doesn't go to the artist, or at least it didn't.
Right.
And so when downloading came available, it wasn't a moral choice. It was like I felt vindicated in that decision, knowing that I wasn't stealing from the artist. I was just taking from a greedy corporation. And sure, that's a huge conversation too. So we don't have to get into that. But I think that things like Patreon, it's so popular because, it's needed and people want to do that.
Cool.
It is a privilege.
I got a couple more clips here, and then we're going to hear from the creator that's actually up on stage. So she's got a good point that she makes too. Let me find my mouse.
She's on MTV or Much Music?
MTV.
Okay.
Should probably maybe give me a hand with this.
Yeah, sure.
The PC1 slider.
Of the struggle of
my
the
cable
ad mechanism and the creator, and how it doesn't work. I mean, there's so many creators talking about getting millions of views and getting a $200 AdSense check at the end of the month. People are filling basketball stadiums full of fans who love and adore their work. Right? This is my story too. I've 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, getting paid $300 a month to deliver music video after music video after music video that cost me hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars, and I get a $200 check for it. Like, that's, can I swear? That's fucked. Like, that sucks. I don't know why we all think that that's okay.
Right.
Were you trying to cut it off before the swear word?
Probably, but I forgot there was a swear word. But he's got a point, right? He's making a really strong point.
Yeah. Well, his passionate language is meant for something.
So the idea of creating so much content, and you've been out there this last year especially, like, you're pumping out content online, and it takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Even like the low quality videos I've managed to put together takes hours and hours and hours and hours to do. And then not only hours and hours to produce, but then when you upload and you're trying to share them and send them around, that also takes a chunk of time.
Yeah, so part of what we've been working towards this last summer, and I'm starting to see it a little more clearly now as we have this conversation, interestingly, is around community and that idea of community. Maybe I got to get a new cable, but that idea of community. There's local, but there's also global. But our local community matters, and that's something you've been working towards for a long time.
What if that's something we did with Kelowna Bus Crew? We set up a Patreon account and do it that way.
Yeah.
Just do a couple of videos, ask people to support it, and see if they will. And if they don't, no biggie.
Yeah. So we're looking at different ideas, and the Not TV brand, the Not Radio brand is really meant and designed to support artists, right? And be a platform that we come together. So on this show, we're looking at keeping you informed and engaged, but also talking to the creators and the artists through this show, so that together we can create this platform and really move forward. I admit the website needs a little bit more work to help get people into it and on it, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. Welcome to the ground floor of notRadio.
That's it. So watch Michael's journey, funny enough, right, as you go forward to do this crowdfunding campaign. And hopefully we can pick up some tips as well and support him. And as this community grows, as each artist becomes successful, I think it's a win for everybody.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's hear any other thoughts before I jump to our next clip? Which
I don't think we actually heard from the MTV lady. Is that something?
No, let's check in with her right now.
Paywall there, or make another version of it.
So I realized that our regular podcast content where we talk about books and documentaries, it's really attractive to advertisers. And our audience is a group of millennial women that is, great for advertising. But a show about the challenge where people basically binge drink for a living.
That's for creepy 45-year-olds.
It's not exactly appealing to advertisers. So it was the perfect way, by transitioning that content to Patreon, then people can pay for that content instead.
Is there a community feeling?
Here, that's
do they
it.
respond to you?
And I do have another clip with her, but any first thoughts about that? I kind of like this play a clip talk.
Well, I think it democratizes the whole thing, obviously, right? So you no longer have to have research and development into your projects. You really you kind of like what we're doing right now. You hit the ground running, you wait for the reaction. It's like the crowdfunding, the Patreon thing. You're letting people decide what content they want. You're not trying to put it all together, do your research about what will make people laugh or interested, and then design something, package it, and then throw it out there. Perfect. You're just, like this lady is saying, you go out there, you make the content, you put it on there, and people will respond, and they will pay for what they want.
Yeah, that's it. All right, I've got one more clip from her if you want to bring up her audio right now. And here we go.
They can come and watch you do the show live if I'm...
They watch live digitally, so it's like a live Q&A video format. So yeah, they start to get to know each other. They have a community, and they feel like they know us. It's that access and the intimacy that's so appealing. I mean, if you are a super fan of a musician, or in this case, a reality person, and you feel like you can talk to them directly, that's valuable.
Again, people in this room and people outside in the hall, they're all thinking, Kevin Mayer runs Disney, they're all thinking about how to sell stuff directly to consumers over the internet. You're doing it. What advice do you have for them?
I was just talking to Jack about this, that a lot of times people take for granted what they have, and we call it ordinary. What I had was so ordinary, just phone numbers. But all of a sudden it was like, no, those are interviews. That's something that I can monetize. So something that seems unimportant to you, to somebody else, is extraordinary. And so if they can tap into what resources they have, they can make a boatload of dough.
That's your new slogan right there.
There you go. I like what she was saying about just, even...
So something that's...
Whoa, there we go. We're checking the live feed too because it looked like it froze for us, but I think we just got it running on so many computers. We've got our live stream playing like 4 times. And thanks, Norman, for the compliment.
Yeah, Norman. Hey, buddy. Sorry I missed you yesterday. I'll get a hold of you real soon.
Super excited that you could join us now.
These beards are beautiful. Look at that.
That's funny. So I think we got this going. Any thoughts on what she was saying right there as a musician, and the idea of now she presents content to her audience that is like behind the scenes, right? She'll pull out her phone and give people exclusive content on the show, and that's a way of reaching people.
Yeah, well, it's something I've been struggling with for a while because it's one of the only valuable things that I have right now in my life is the network that I've established. So I'm trying to figure out ways to the musicians I know in town, the musicians I know out of town, all the artists, all the beautiful, vibrant people around in this area. I would love to go to them, do interviews, talk to them, do videos, and that's something I've struggled doing because, this woman's in a great position because, she's right. The contacts in her phone are a resource, but you also need the camera gear and the editing and and the time and the money. Like, it's not just that her phone contacts are the main piece. Like, that's her network. But you also need all the technical stuff and all the other support and resources to actually use that.
That's actually a really good point, and something I want to address, because as a filmmaker and a broadcaster, I went to broadcasting school, and when we transitioned from radio to television, one of the first things we learned very quickly is that it takes a team to make television. You can't make television by yourself. And now we live in a world where people have the different tools, and I think it's shifting the way that we can create content together. It's challenging to send somebody like Michael out to go create your own content, right? And your music and your art. And I get that a lot of people are doing that, and that's been the approach, is you handle your own social media accounts. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a great opportunity here as we move forward for different creative types to work together. And that's what I think we're showing through this program. And I hope to be able to show to other people that I have the technical skills and some camera gear, because I like to make film and music videos. You've got the music, you've got this creative network, and I think together we can create something. I'd like to, as we progress on this show others how they can also do that, and how they can make a model that works and supports everybody involved in the creation of that content.
Yeah, at the very least, you can see us in our attempts and failures and try to avoid them, right? Like, at the very least, you can tune in, see what doesn't work, and then avoid that trap for yourselves.
Yeah.
So there's value. There's already value. Regardless if we succeed or fail, there's value for you.
And that's what we're hoping to create. And this will be our live stream every Monday. And we'll look at what's going on in the world and on our journey.
I'm still not, like, 7 in the morning might be too early for a live stream, though. I'm still thinking that.
Like, who's going to join us at 7 o'clock in the morning?
I don't know. I have no idea.
You might have to turn this into a 2-hour live stream just so you can pick up some viewers as the show goes on.
Yeah, just let them tune in, tune out.
But you might catch the replay, right? We'll see how much value there is in that.
Yeah, if you guys are watching, and just let us know. It's a good indicator of what time we should be at.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe let us know too, and we'll come out with a poll to find out more. But where your interests lie, if we're gathering news headlines, for example, or breaking down things going on in the industry. I mean, we're gearing up to get people on the phone and Skype people in too to join us. So we really want to make this an active. The world's changing every day. Let's find out what's happening now so that we can all move in the direction of the future together.
Sounds great to
By
me.
staying in the now, though, so we don't get anxious.
There you go.
All right, I do have one more. Actually, there is a couple more, but I don't know how much longer we're going to go with this video. So let me share one more that I think would be really valuable. And that is 9:33. All right, you ready?
No, I am.
All right, bring up the mic. Awesome.
The way we, the kind of creator that we are building products for is a creator with an established following who posts regularly online. That doesn't mean you're a star. We've got some folks who are putting out YouTube videos regularly. They have 20,000 views per video, but they have 2 Patreon pages and they're making $50,000 a month for doing that. So they're not a household name by any stretch of the imagination, but they're building a small business media company now, right? They have 15 employees and they're scaling and they're growing, and they're building something that's really meaningful.
Do they want to do this as a career, or is this beer money?
Oh no, they want to do this as a career. Like everything that and they're wonderful business people, right? They're entrepreneurs. Like everything that they make, they're reinvesting in making the content better and building studios. And I mean, now their production facilities look like sound stages. It's incredible.
Is there some rule of thumb that says, well, if you want to sell something on Patreon, you've got to have an audience of this many people because you're going to convert this percentage of them. So if you only have this many fans, it's not going to work. Is there some algorithm, some math, some logic there?
Yeah, I would love that model so much. At the end of the day, the leading indicator of what makes a creator really succeed on Patreon is how much they love their fans and how much their fans love them back, right? If there's somebody who's devoted to their fans and their fans are devoted to them, and that manifests in engagement and comments and likes and all those sort of traditional measures of value, but ultimately it's difficult to quantify.
Is there something about pacing, like you've got to expect that you're going to have to create something on this regular basis? We had Ben Thompson here last year on the stage, and he puts out a newsletter, and $10 a month. He's making a lot of money doing it, and he's publishing what, daily, Dan?
Most days, yeah.
Most days, a lot of stuff, it's a lot of work. Is that the way you have to do it? Can you do it once a week? Can you do it once a month?
It took a minute for me to determine what the audience wanted, whether they wanted interviews with like where are they now type of people or current cast members, things like that. And it took a minute for me to know the pace to put out content, whether they like to live interact or whether they just like pre-produce videos, things like that. But as I got going, it became clear. And they give you feedback, and Patreon provides tools for that too. You can do polls, and people feel like they can put input into what you're producing, which they like as well.
There you go.
Yeah, that's groovy.
I'm putting you to work again.
Is it the dial?
Michael's starting, yeah. It's like a thumb switch, which you drag to the the right above that circular button. I'm not sure how well I showed you. It was right kind of where you were. So this, you pull it.
Oh.
Learning
like
the tools.
Okay.
It's a camera. Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at, is you can use it as an instant feedback tool.
There you go.
And figure out, you don't have to spend so much time figuring out, right? The traditional model would be they would just make a pilot of a couple of different shows, where meanwhile she just makes like a couple of YouTube videos and then measures how many people thumbs up it.
Right. It's an interesting time. I mean, the audience is changing because of all of this, and then the creators are changing the way that we reach people.
It's super interesting. It's a really, and the awesome part that's really intriguing to me is that the landscape of how people consume content and how people create content too it's changing so rapidly. And I can understand how that'd be overwhelming for some people, but I find it extremely exciting. I think it's an awesome challenge. It's an ever-evolving challenge.
Yeah.
So what else are you going to spend your time doing than trying to tackle like one of the biggest challenges ever that you're passionate about? Right? I'm passionate about content, about creating, about being creative and connecting with those type of people. So that's where I want to be.
I'm passionate about creating this content too. I want to be able to connect with people who have stories and ideas and who are shaping the world around us and moving in the direction that is a solution to all the problems that we see in the world, not just talking about the problems of the world. Yeah.
I want to know if anybody out there has any interview ideas, anybody you would like to see from the community around here, or even, in the not too distant communities that you'd get a kick out of hearing more about.
Yeah.
Right?
That'll be cool.
Yeah, just anybody that you've been wondering about. So that, the Raul would be a good guy to get in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a great diverse community here, and I think this is sort of the start to continuing the momentum that we started last summer. And it just took a little while to rejig the pieces. We weren't successful with our crowdfunding campaign last summer, so I wanted to update everybody, but also thank everybody. And that's been a journey, and admittedly, my fault and failure has been not communicating consistently with everybody. I guess I've never been a social butterfly when it comes to technology and the internet. I like being behind the scenes and ICQ with my friends kind of a thing, but when Facebook became mainstream, I'm not on there every day telling you what I had for breakfast, and that's where I start to break down of how do I keep people informed. I'll think, hey, this is kind of funny. I could show you something in my life right now, and maybe it keeps me front and center or however it works, but then I start second guessing myself and thinking, no, this is stupid. Then I got to keep up with it. What do I got to post 5 times a day? And then I just panic and find something else or ignore it, and then meanwhile 2 years goes by and I haven't posted anything.
Yeah, well, it's time consuming and it's not up everyone's alley. That kind of thing. It's exhausting for some people.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, but we've got this show, and you do a great job of it. So you've been really inspiring over this last year, building your brand, Kelowna Busker. I think it'll be a good example for others, hopefully.
Yeah,
who want to move forward too.
Absolutely. You just do one a day, one post a day on Facebook. That's all you need.
Because at least you're doing something.
At least you're doing something. You're keeping up. Any more than 1 to 2 posts a day on Facebook is going to negatively impact the algorithm.
Right, so that's interesting because Facebook has changed their algorithm.
Ooh la la.
Right? So here's this story from a reporter from BuzzFeed, Katie, who discovered that the posts that she was sharing were getting stuck at the top of her friends' feeds. So people are being served stale content, from a friend for 12 days straight, just because it happens to have a lot of comments.
Oh, I see.
Right. So in Facebook's attempt to make content more meaningful, it's analyzing the video or whatever the post is and saying, oh, this has a lot of comments. So comments are king now. Mm-hmm. And it's led to this new version where people are being served the same content, and but it's misjudging, the algorithms misjudging what people want. So in this example, Katie posted something that her friends actually didn't like, and they commented on it, and then they started to get irritated and asking her, like, can you take it down? Like, this is ridiculous. It's the top thing I'm seeing on my news feed every single day, because she got lots of replies. So she said, trust me, if let me rephrase. She said, you can try this yourself. It's an easy to game the system by posting something that drives comments. So try asking a question or for advice. Does anyone have a shampoo they love? Or what was the most embarrassing thing that happened to you in middle school? And she said, trust me, you'll get a lot of replies, and it will stick to the top of your friend's feed for days.
So Facebook changed it, or is this the change?
This is the change. So I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if other publishers know yet what the impact it has had on them, other than as a consumer going through Facebook. Are you seeing very many posts from publishers?
Well, Facebook, I don't know, man. It's hard to keep up with. I don't know. I don't have any resources that I go to that tell me what Facebook's doing. I always find out, like, after years.
Right.
Like...
It's an experiential thing. I remember going on Facebook. I stopped really using Facebook actively maybe 2-3 years ago, but prior to that, I would go on Facebook and I would see a lot of posts from the pages that I liked. And I love that. I love that experience.
You don't get that anymore.
It was a lot of, no, I stopped getting it. And in fact, it cut off maybe 2-3 years ago.
You won't see pages unless they're advertising to you.
Right.
Like, unless
it just
they're paying
did not
Facebook.
see it. So that was an experience for my life. That was inspirational, motivational, let me know what's going on from pages, and that just stopped. So Facebook effectively became useless for me as a feed.
Yeah.
I use it as a messaging system now. Or I'll check once in a while, because you can kind of see what's going on and be social with friends. That's the part I was missing for the last 2 years. I stopped being social with my friends on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. It is weird because it's an augmented reality, especially with that kind of strategy that they're using. So, like, you go and you like a page because you like the content that page is putting out. But now Facebook is not letting that page send you content unless that page pays for it. Mm-hmm. So now it's just an advertising service. So it's like getting commercials on your television. You're not seeing the things you're genuinely interested in. You're seeing the things that are being paid to be put in front of you.
Right.
So that's a huge thing against Facebook, I think. There's so many interesting things that these, like YouTube with their whole demonetization fiasco that happened like in the last few years, actually. See, another thing, a lot of people didn't know that was going on. It was a decision they made, and then like a year and a half later, all of these YouTube channels are checking their histories and going, wait, I got demonetized a year a bit ago? Like, I just lost money on millions and millions of views without anybody telling me or notifying me at all. And then Facebook, right? Like, the average user, you're not going to get the content that you want to get. You're going to get the content that is paid to be put in front of you. So it's like we just got to have a continual cycle. There's got to be like a new social media that comes out that isn't in the grips of advertising. It hasn't been a publicly traded company now. It doesn't have shareholders to be responsible to, right? Like, they just got turned into the machine. So you need to ever just reinvent the next one so that we can have what we used it for in the first place.
And that's sort of happening now with blockchain technology. I don't know if you've heard of Steemit.
No.
So Steemit is a website that, and I can just show you the page here, but it's a website that is built on the blockchain, which means it uses, oh man, how would I describe this? Content is not on a server. It's sort of decentralized.
Okay.
In a weird way, it makes it so that you can't, although presumably they maybe still can find a way to filter content, because the concerned by a few is that if you have a platform that's completely decentralized, not controlled by people, that anybody can post something on, that you can get some content on there that should not be illegal content, basically.
Okay.
That just shouldn't have been created and put into the public sphere at all.
Got you.
And it's let loose. So there's kind of it's not worked out. The bugs aren't worked out of these systems yet, but I guess there are people in the world working on alternatives to combat this problem now. But well, a mess. But I'd say that there are people out there working on such problems, and that was actually the inspiration for Not TV all along, is that it's a cooperative organization, and that every member, every artist actually owns a piece of it rather than just a board of shareholders. So that's still in the works, but
you see
one step at a time.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's preferable to the old model as well. But you're still going to have greedy people. Just because they're content creators doesn't mean they're not going to want to see, your company be as profitable as possible at the expense of maybe something that's essential. Like, do you think if Facebook was owned by content creators, they would still be like, they would vote against, because the algorithm that they're using for advertisement, that's making them tons and tons of money.
Well, here's an analogy. I don't know if it's an analogy. It's an example. Banks.
Yes.
So you've got the big banks in Canada posting record profits, right? And then there's the credit unions, and the credit unions are member-owned. So they're still making a lot of money, but at the end of the year, I'm a credit union member. I get a check from my bank. So the bank's giving me back the profit. It's not going to some guy so he can go out and buy a boat. But the company itself, and there's a news article this last year that the practices of the banks in Canada have been less than ideal. They've been pushing people to sign up for new financial products in a way that's it's almost aggressive. And that same report applied to some of the credit unions, that they were still they're trying to get profit, even though the members are the ones getting the profit. So, but they're two different models, two different business models. One where the members do have the power to change the system. You just elect different directors. You can actually get in there and say, hey, this isn't working for me. But bank customers are trying to do that with the government, right? And saying, hey, this is not good business practice. Like, we feel pressured, and these banks are trying to get more money out of us for their profit. So they are two different ways of working. I think you're right, though. There's somebody that wants that profit at the end of the day, even if it's just a numbers game. Like, I'm a board of directors, and if I can make the bank, even if it's a cooperative, a credit union, look good while I've been in office or I've had my term, then that makes me a more successful human being. And even if the money is not directly going into my pocket, we're all motivated by something, aren't we?
I imagine so. Mostly by the inherent negative qualities of mankind, which seem to be promoted in society, right? Greed, selfishness.
I wonder if that's just part of the past, and now as we bring awareness to it, mindfulness to it, we get to break that down a little bit and choose new systems.
Possibly. I think maybe that's just part of the struggle to begin with. Maybe it's supposed to be like that. Maybe we're all supposed to be struggling in a society that encourages and entices our most negative aspects of ourselves. And maybe that's part of the whole process of learning that and dealing with it and rejecting it. If we lived in a society that didn't do that and only promoted the positive aspects of our lives, it wouldn't be much of a challenge to find those. Wow. Right?
It's an empowering path that we're on then, individually and collectively, when we meet it with the awareness and make choices that create change, conscious change. Well, here you go. You get to join us on our journey and discover your own journey. And who knows how the world's going to change in the next 5 to 10 years.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be vastly different than how it changed in the previous 10. That's all I know. I know that it's exponential, or maybe not even exponential, but I just...
Hard to say now with quantum computing and AI and all this.
If you could even just go back 50 years and tell people the level of technology that's going on right now. And that's the funny thing, is people think we're behind the times of predictions because things don't look like the Jetsons, right? Like, we're not flying around in cars and stuff like that. but things are ridiculous, and we should, next week we should we should talk about robotics.
Yeah, that would be good.
I've seen some crazy stuff going on with robotics right now.
Cool.
Prosthetic limbs that are, dare I say, better than their, what they've replaced.
Yeah,
it's getting to that point.
Superhuman. It's gonna get part cyborg, superhuman.
Yeah, you're gonna want to amputate your arm so that you can get one of these robot arms. That's gonna be a point. That's gonna be a conversation real soon. Because right now we're in this conversation about transgender rights and how old you need to be able to decide that you want to be a different gender. How old are you going to need to be before you decide you want to chop off your legs and put robot legs on? Right? That's going to be another conversation that we have, because the technology's almost already there to be better than what you have.
Interesting. I'd like maybe there is sources like this out already, and we can discover them and have conversations with some people around being a complete human before we break ourselves down and then have to become complete again.
Yeah. I think acceptance is something we need to practice as a virtue in our society a little bit more. I think decades of looking at magazines and wishing every part that we weren't satisfied with ourselves was different has led us to this point where we think that's top priority. Yeah. If you don't like something about yourself, you got to change it. You got to get that nose job. You got to transition. You got to do this, or else you won't be happy. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, if you're not happy, none of those things are going to make you happy.
Yeah, it could become
figure that out first, and then do whatever you want.
Because to start chasing it, you go down a rabbit hole with that, and just chase next thing.
Exactly, but figure out, because those things are not the answer to make you happy. Nothing external is going to be the answer for you.
No, what I love about the time we're living in one capacity, is this East meets West, the Eastern philosophies integrating back into Western lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So that exploration excites me.
What's absolutely fascinating is now we have the technologies to start to put in a Western mind frame what these Eastern teachings have done for centuries. You got any more headlines over there?
I do not. If you got something to share, I'm going to do something.
Throw it onto this screen over here.
Bizarre, if I can. Okay, this is going to be kind of weird for people. Maybe I'm gonna flip you.
Flip me, eh?
Yeah, so that we're actually looking at each other on the screen. Okay, so it's a little trick. Boom. Did it work? No, it didn't do anything. Oh, can I? I can't do it while you're on air.
Who knows?
Next week, join us when Michael's facing the other direction. Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All right, okay. Go over to your computer.
Yeah, go over to my screen here.
Let me make sure I got your audio.
This is Lady Lauren Constantini. That's a fun name to say. And she's talking about exactly what we were just talking about. Okay, so the technologies are getting to the point where we can use them to better understand as the lady's about to say, the data that is coming off her body. So I'm just going to play a quick little clip of this first video just so it can be an interest. You got me, Travis?
I do. They're not actually hearing anything. I'm not exactly sure why.
Oh.
Hang on. Sorry, guys. It's not an exact science, but I can just see that the levels aren't going on your audio input capture vmix.
Well, wouldn't it be funny if none of the audio was making it off this program? We just stared, mimed in silence for the last 30 minutes. Anyway, all this lady is saying is that our bodies are radiating data, and now that we have the technology to read that data, interpret it, and then communicate it to ourselves and others to help steer us in a better direction for our overall wellness. You want to try it again, Travis?
Let's try it. Let's try it. Because I'm a little bit confused as to why that.
Okay. So I'm going to try to play this clip.
No. It's not coming through.
Not going through. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
That's bizarre.
Well, we're just going to have to roll right through it. So.
Oh, here we go.
You figured it out?
I might have.
So in this clip, Lauren is talking about...
You just have to give us a test just to see.
Okay.
Just like, bloop, pay for it. No, pause. Pause it. Okay. No. Weird.
He's the most connected man in the world.
You'll just, say it all for them.
So what happens, he's been wearing...
Can I try one more time really quick?
Yeah.
No, okay, pause it. Okay.
His name's Chris Dancy, as you can read. And he wears several dozens of wearable technologies that monitor his body from anything from his blood levels to his heart rate to his anxiety. She gives an example that when she was talking with him and he was in his house recalling a troubling memory in his childhood, the lights started to flicker, and that was his visual cue to calm himself down and not go into a panic or stressful mood. This is, you can see, they can still see the picture, eh?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so you can see this. In 2012, Chris was a bit chubby. In 2013, he had lost 100 pounds with the help of these wearable technologies because they were constantly monitoring his body, constantly reminding him, constantly helping him be mindful in the moment. So if you can imagine what we were talking about, being mindful in your everyday, helping you make appropriate decisions. Imagine if you had wearable technology that helped you be mindful. Every time you got stressed and you're about to lose your cool, lights would start flickering, and that would be your visual cool. Okay, count to 10, calm it down, calm it down. Or if you were about to eat more calories in a day than you necessarily should, maybe your watch beeps and lets you know. So this is one example of how emerging technologies are going to shape our wellness and how we appreciate and take care of ourselves.
Cool. You just hit play one more time.
One more time?
I just want to see if I'm getting a level. We can hear it. That's what's weird. Okay, pause it for a second. Pause it. It's so loud.
Not too loud?
I can just mute it for us. All right.
There we go.
If you could play something in the background, like a different tab or something, we'll get this worked out, and then we'll kind of let you play whatever else and then wrap up the show.
Sure.
We're going to work this out this week so that next week we don't run into the same issue.
It should be playing.
Yeah.
Okay, the next clip I wanted to show you. I'm not actually.
Oh, wait a second. Can you be quiet for a second? Quiet. No, okay. Those are our mics.
So the next video I want to share with you guys, and all these links will be available where, Travis?
These are on our
Be on the website,
notRadio.net.
Notradio.net. So you can go check out any of the videos we're playing and see them in full length. This next one, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to hear it. I'm going to still play it for you though. It's Muse Connect, and this is great. This is a couple years old, this technology, but I just discovered it this week, and I want to share it with you because I'm not sure how many people know. It's a wearable technology that reads your brainwaves. You put it on, you do mind
memory of the steady attention.
Sorry. Okay, I got it.
You got it?
Past. In relationships,
hearing
do we
this
have
now?
enough self-love to leave an abusive union?
Providing consistent
so
measure.
down on ourselves that we carry.
Sorry, I'll mute that for you guys. Sorry, it was just probably blasting you. But we got that audio working for you now. So.
Okay, I'm going to play the Muse Connect video then.
All right.
Okay, here it goes.
Whoop. Okay, got to start again.
Since 2014,
Sorry,
Muse, the brain-sensing
Okay.
headband, has taught hundreds of thousands of people the skill of focused attention meditation by providing affordable and fun neurofeedback. Muse is also used by professionals, like yourself, to help clients learn to meditate and reach their wellness and performance goals. As our community of practitioners grew, we realized that simply teaching meditation was not enough. Providing consistent measurement and feedback significantly improves treatment outcomes, and we wanted our practitioners to be able to do just that. Enter Muse Connect, a personalized dashboard that tracks your clients' at-home practice with Muse, so you can view their progress daily, weekly, and monthly. It has a resource bank of best practices to introduce Muse to your clients, including webinars, case studies, and worksheets, all at your fingertips. Members get access to preferred pricing and discount links, making Muse more...
Muse, that's a wearable technology that is helping us meditate.
Neat.
Yeah, I'm just excited about the potential of that.
Do you think you see yourself using it?
Me, probably not.
How come?
I don't know.
Are you into wearable technologies at all, or?
No, I'm a bit, not standoffish, but I just don't. I rather do I still write my ideas down on paper and pen. So, I don't know if I'm going to be wearing a headset that reads my mind. But I'm not exactly sold on Muse or anything like that. I'll even get rid of this guy. What I'm excited about is that, I guess, I don't know, even when I was taking that class in college, people were scoffing and rolling their eyes at the idea of meditation and how it might help you. But now as the technology moves forward, it's becoming undeniable. And now as technology like this emerges, wearable technology that actually helps you measure and map it and improve upon it.
Yeah.
I think now more than ever, it's an acceptable form of self-discipline. That's not laugh-worthy. It's a serious thing that can help you in many dimensions of your life.
Yeah, we live. That's part of the amazing time we live in, where we have access to all these tools that help us become, I wanted to say more mindful, but just more aware. Mindful is a different piece of that. You got to be mindful. Just having the technology doesn't make you mindful. I suppose when you check it, if you can come into this presence mode, you know what? Mindful is maybe it's a bigger conversation. That's another topic for another day. We can even talk to others about what does that really mean? Is it being present and aware, or what does that mean? Am I awake? Am I awake in my own body? I don't even, I don't know what people's interpretations of that even means.
Well, have you ever lost a battle with being mindful? So you say you're coming up to a decision, maybe you're emotionally distraught and you're kind of panic-stricken and stressed out, and you're trying your best to be mindful and to make an appropriate decision, but your worst nature gets the better of you and you end up making a mistake or blowing up at somebody or being angry or overly jealous or whatever the reason is. And then you have to kind of, set back, reset everything and, accept and surrender to that kind of failure.
I don't know if I call it failure if there's a moment that if I can learn and get a little bit better, but I took that away from the Vipassana course that you said when you go back into the world, if you encounter an experience that generally makes you angry and you blow up, if this next time you go out and experience that same moment, you blow up, but you stay mad for maybe it was a day, the next day generally, if even just you're not as mad for 15 minutes sooner, you're only mad just before you go to bed. Yeah, that's progress. Yeah, exactly.
That's really interesting because that's how I felt a long time. I've always tried to measure the leg of regret. So you do something rash and maybe mean-spirited or whatever it is, and then the amount of time it takes you to regret that and be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. And as long as that time keeps shrinking, then you're good. But then And I felt that way for a long time, and I was really happy with my progress because I would measure it, and I'd be like, oh, a year ago I would have been mad for months about this, and now it's 2 days later and I'm over it, and I want, to give forgiveness and be forgiven. So that's always been progress. But now as it gets shorter and shorter, it's like one of those dreams where you're running down the hallway, right? And you're running to the end of it, but as you get to the end of it, it keeps stretching out. That's what I feel like I'm in right now. So for years and years, I've been measuring that time getting shorter and shorter, and now it's only getting shorter by milliseconds. I do something rash, and then, feel like I'm stagnant. I need to do something else to get over that.
Yeah, and that's maybe where the meditation helps. If Vipassana, they talk about the science of the practice. Vipassana specifically being a technique of meditation discovered by the last living Buddha when he sat for 42 days.
Okay.
And what his insight was this technique that you can now go to these courses and learn, and 10 days the minimum number of days to learn the technique. But he said it's like a deep surgery of the mind. We're going in and we're pulling out the roots. So the roots of what cause us to react that way, in that stillness meditation for the length of time, that once we learn the technique, you're with yourself and you're actually going in deeper and deeper. It's amazing what can happen in that 10-day span, and I can appreciate the longer courses. I took a course and I wanted to go sit for another 20 days. Like, I was ready to just go deeper.
Okay.
But you get into that deeper state and you're observing yourself and you're seeing these reactions pop up in your body and in your mind. And you have an opportunity to make a choice then and there of how you react in the meditation. Mm-hmm. So you're actually getting to the root of it, and you're pulling out those roots. It's like you're weeding your mind of all this negativity, and it can be incredibly hard, if not in some cases impossible, to do in your waking life if you're not in that meditative state, because there's so much data coming at us. How do we get to the root of it? Sometimes miraculous, or it's just life-changing. Something hits you over the head so much, disrupts your life to the point where you really almost have no choice but to change, because you're like, I'm not going down that path again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But what a gift to have that course here in this world today.
Yeah. Any little insight that helps you out.
Yeah. And I only share it so much because it's not like TM. It doesn't have money. It's not marketed. There's nobody pushing it. It's there when anybody's ready to learn about it. And I'm not peddling it. I'm not trying to be like a Jehovah's Witness or anything. I'm not going door to door, but I just know how profound it is and how positive and beneficial it is.
You want to let people in on what your sleep cycle experiment's going to be?
Sure.
I think that's super interesting.
So I've been working 36-hour shifts, and actually part of this originated from my grandfather when he was in the military. I don't know if this is a good comparison. He was 19 years old, and he's like, you get a bunch of 20-year-olds, you can do anything, you're on top of the world. But it was World War II. He was in the Aleutian Islands up by Alaska, and they had to rebuild these engines for the Americans. So that they had plane engines shipped out, sitting in boxes, and the Americans were trying to get the people from the factory up to install these engines, and there was a delay, and so these engines are just sitting there. So the Canadians said, hey, do you want us to change those engines? So they started working 36-hour shifts, 36 hours on, 8 hours off, for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to install these engines. And I heard that story many times from my grandpa, and then I was here working a few overnights, and it kind of clicked that I'd be working past 24 hours, and there's a second wind that happens. And I started reflecting on Grandpa's story and realized that it's humanly possible. Because for a long time I heard that story and I thought, yeah, right, okay, you work 36 hours, sure. Mm-hmm. But then actually experiencing what is it like to be awake for 36 hours? And the big factors that have affected me are diet. So if I go, like I tried this the other night, went and consumed a jar of 5-cent candies from 7-Eleven, and there's a crash, and then it's just like not being in my mind, the way that just not being able to focus like that. So sugar, even processed food, going and having fast food late at night, that can really disrupt, I think, the energy.
Yeah.
So eating clean, I can actually keep my energy somewhat up and a little bit more consistent. And then if I throw meditation in, it just prolongs it. Like I've worked on 72-hour film projects where I didn't sleep all weekend.
Crazy.
But I'd go and I'd meditate. So I'd be up for close to 48 hours, but an hour of meditation, and I would be no problem. I would keep going.
I got to get into this meditation, man.
So
we should do some live stream meditation sometime.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So this new schedule I'm trying out is I'm going to try it for 3 months. It's a 36-hour on, and then I go and meditate for 2 hours, sleep for 8, wake up, meditate for 2 more hours, and then keep going for another 36 hours. So I'll sleep every 36 hours.
Wild. Yeah. Okay, I'm super interested to hear how it goes.
There you go.
You should keep a journal.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, this will be kind of a journal, but you should keep a journal as well, and then share it on this show.
Cool, I will.
All right, I'll bring my crowdfunding experiences over the next little while. You do that. What else is going on?
Sounds good.
We can share with people. Are we going to really do that movie?
Yeah, we're talking about doing a movie for Indie Fest. Mm-hmm. Something short and simple. I had a change of thoughts. I was here working the other night, and Craig, photographer, he came in and he did some work over the weekend as well. And he says, hey, let's go shoot some darts. And I don't know why it never clicked in my brain. There's a dartboard in the studio, eh?
Oh, wild.
So, we went and shot some darts. And then last night I'm at home thinking about, wait a minute, there's a dartboard. let's write a movie around the dartboard. It'd be one location. You could have so many different characters. And so I started, yes, I want to do our film. It's a short story.
Yeah.
But I also want to do something incredibly simple, just because of the amount of time we've got available in our crazy busy schedules.
When does it have to be done by?
The end of March.
Oh, okay, yeah, that is pretty fast.
Feels like we've got a month.
Okay.
Planning and all that.
Well, we'll let you guys in on that as we do it. So that'll be another cool thing you can tune in and keep up with us on, and maybe give us some helpful feedback.
Get a behind the scenes.
Maybe even join in and help us.
Whatever movie we make, whether it's a dartboard movie or I like the idea that we planned a concept at the end of last episode.
Yeah, don't give it out. It's a good one. You guys will have to wait and see it. But if you do, I don't know, we got to cast some people anyway.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some beautiful, talented people watching right now who want to be in a whole movie.
If you are watching, absolutely send us a message, reach out, go to our website, we've got a contact form, notRadio.net.
Groovy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's we're over time. We're going to get better at this.
Do we want to share, like, the last thing I have queued up is Bo's Juliet video.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah?
Oh, for sure.
All right.
This is a video we shot with Bo Jahura at Travis's place. It's not released anywhere yet. You're getting a special preview only on notRadio.
There it is. All right. Otherwise, have a fantastic day.
Have a great week, guys.
All right.
chili, she got pepper stew and morning dew. I start jumping, minds a pumping, hearts a thumping. How did I get here? I don't know. I'm a sticker for your flicker, Juliet, time clock ticker, way you move thicker, you are a light for my cigarette, my Juliet, my Juliet.
you have a story idea, music, or art to share, or any recommendations about great communities, businesses, or people doing awesome things in our new internet economy, contact us at thisisnotradio.com or notradio.net. They both go to the same place. And definitely subscribe to the podcast. Notradio.net. This is Not Radio. It's a podcast.